am a songwriter. I'm currently at Aspire, Berklee School of Music, the 5-week program, summer program. And I just wanted to make a video on how I write music and how I personally get out of a songwriting slump, because I feel like I've been on one in the past couple months, and so just wanted to talk about that. So first of all, I'm going to go over how my process of writing music goes, and how I get my inspiration, and how I get inspired, how I get inspiration, how I write down that inspiration and turn it into actual lyrics and actual melodies and of course a song. So I tend to just keep my notes app on me at all times. If not my notes app, I also have like small journals. I might be able to find one, hold on. So like small journals like this, they're really thin and easy to put in your bag with like a pencil or something, because I personally like writing on paper more than digital writing. That inspires me more than typing it. But I keep that with me usually in any bag that I have, just in case I get an idea. I also, and what I write down if I don't have my phone on me is just like a sentence that I've thought of, or some snippets of sentences with little squiggles in between, which sounds really chaotic, and it actually really is, and decoding it is hard, but I get down what I have already, and then the little squiggles are where I want other lines to go later when I think of them. You can do the same thing in the notes app, just like writing down a couple sentences and then just gibberish, I guess. Yeah, so that's basically how I write things down. Okay, so the second thing is, you don't have to know like music theory, and you don't have to know a lot about music. You don't have to be a music nerd to write music. But here's the kind of basics of that if you don't know a lot about music theory but you still want to write songs, because it's easier than it looks. And I think people are a lot of times get so stuck up on the music theory and what they don't know or don't claim to know that they lose their inspiration and like give up. But I don't think, like, you can write a song without having music theory knowledge. So basically, chord progressions, they can be happy, they can be sad, they give feeling to the song. So like basically it depends on your genre that you want to go for, but I don't really like using the word genre because personally I don't believe in genres. I don't like the idea of them. Obviously I believe them because they're everywhere, but I don't like the idea of them because it feels restricting. So yeah, but if you want to write a pop song, usually pop songs are about 4 chords, which is the 1, or in this case a C chord, like in an example. So we have the 1, which is the C chord, and then if you wanted to go up to a different chord, you could either go to any chord, but I'm just gonna say the 4, and the 4 is F, and so we have C, F, and then if you wanted to add another chord in, again, it could be any chord, but I'm just gonna choose the 5 or the 5/7, which is the most common. Like those 3 are the most common chords in songs, in specifically pop songs. And so the 5/7 would be G7. So now you have a chord progression, C, F, G7. And don't get too stuck up on judging your chord progressions, because then again, like if you start judging, then you're going to start getting tired of judging yourself and stuff like that, and then you're going to lose interest. And so if you really want to be inspired, just try not to judge yourself as much as you might want to, because I think personally I struggle with that a lot. And yeah, don't try not to lock yourself into a genre though, because then as you grow as a musician, everybody has had these changes in style, obviously, and you can listen to so many different musicians and you can tell where they grew as a musician over their timeline of albums and genres and singles and blah 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 blah. So yeah, don't look. That's just my advice. Yeah. If you would like a second video on me explaining music theory, just let me know, and I can try to explain what I do know, because as I said, I'm not I'm not a professor in this. I'm just a teenager who writes songs, but I just wanted to share my kind of knowledge of music so far, and maybe start adding videos as I learn more things. And so yeah, this is the first one, and let me know if you want a brief music theory video. So back to happy and sad chord progressions. It really depends, because the thing is, people always say, okay, happy chord progressions are ones in a major key and sad ones are ones in a minor key, but that doesn't always have to be the case. It really depends on how deep you want your song to be. If you want it to be a happy song but there's some sad parts in it, then you might want to do both major and minor chords with some sevens in there to add more depth and stuff like that. Or if it's a sad song but it gets happy in a certain part and you want to talk about how happy whatever is, but just in a certain part of the song, you can just switch to the major key in that song. And a lot of the time I feel like people have trouble switching between keys, which, fair enough. It's kind of confusing and hard to get to sound how you want it. But you can do some research on your own, but I would always suggest going, if you're in a minor key, you can always go to the relative major, which is the third of that minor key. So just always keep that in mind. And always remember, if your song isn't sounding how you thought it would, then that's okay. You can always keep this one how it is for a while and see if you like this version better. Or, of course, you can try again to write the song that you were picturing in your head. But I think a lot of my songs I think I've surprised myself with a lot of songs that I didn't think would sound the way I wanted it to, but then I realized that it's actually kind of cooler that way. And I've written multiple songs trying to make this one song that's been in my head, and I still don't think I've quite made it how I want it, but I've gotten about 2 other songs or 3 other songs from that idea that I have done other things with. So you can always save things for later. You can always come back to things. Songs can take you, they don't have to take you a single session. You don't have to sit down and write a full song, because that is a lot to do, and you should try, because that's a great songwriting exercise, is to write a song in one sitting. But you don't have to have that as your completed song. You can keep that one and then come back to it when you get more inspired to finish the song. I did that a lot. I have done that a lot. Look at me talking like I have experience about anything. My one song that is being released, or maybe it has been released by the time you're seeing this video, is it took me about a year and a half to write it. I started writing it whenever I was kind of upset at someone and then finished it and added the bridge to it when I had thought about the situation for a while and realized that I was okay with it. And I think it sounds more of a full put together song that way, because you see my thought process like right in the moment as that situation happened, and then later on when I realized that it's actually okay and I don't care as much anymore. So yeah, you can take however long, and I know you know this probably, but I'm just going to give you another person saying this. You can take you can take however long, and you don't have to stress yourself out by wanting to have a finished song in 1 day or 2 days even. Yeah, and that's why I also recommend the journal thing that you can keep with you, because sometimes you'll be like thinking in your head and then all of a sudden you start humming the song that you were working on a couple days ago, and then you realize something that you want to add to it that like you haven't thought of. You can easily just write it down. And yeah, or voice memos. I love voice memos. I have the thing on my wallpaper where I've added the shortcut to it, and so whenever I have an idea, I don't even have to go search for the app and then press record. I can just press record from my home screen or from my lock screen, which is a wonderful feature. I'm so glad they added that. Yeah, so I recommend doing that if you are someone who has like random ideas at random parts of the day and you don't really know what to do with them. Yeah. Or at times in the night when you probably shouldn't be awake, but you are thinking of a melody in your head, because that has happened to me while I've been here. And I ended up writing my friends in a group chat asking if anybody had a bass guitar or knows who has a bass guitar, because I had this bass line stuck in my head. And I texted them not knowing or not realizing that it was 2 a.m. And so they texted me the next day saying, why was I up at 2 a.m.? I was like, good question. So, and then one of the last things I want to say is lyrically, you're always going to be growing as a lyricist, and you might want to write really deep lyrics and really, like, I don't know, just thinking about lyrics more. And then you might have a really simple chord progression, and kind of figuring out how the chord progression and the lyrics go together in a way that makes sense is a thing that I'm working on right now, because I tend to want to write really poetic, really deep lyrics, and then I don't know what else to do but a simple chord progression over it. And that kind of, it can help because it can make the viewer or listener really appreciate your lyrics more, but it can also distract in a way, because you have this really simple melody and then this kind of complicated lyrical thought over it. But then the opposite can also happen, where you can write too much of everything and you want people to understand your lyrics, but then you also have this really complicated chord progression and melody over it. And so less is more, which I sound like, I don't even know what I sound like, but I sound like what you've always heard people tell you about songwriting. Yeah, but it can be true. It can be really true. Less is more. But then if you really want to make it, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Another thing that you can do is you can look up, you can always look up on Pinterest or even Google, just journal prompts. And journal prompts have never, like, it's always giving you a way to write without having to feel like you're writing a song. Just getting ideas out and then later looking at them, seeing which ones you like, which ones you can turn into song lyrics, which ones rhyme with each other, and maybe even what you really want to write a song about and what you really are inspired by, that you didn't know and have figured out while writing a journal prompt. So the overall notes that I think you should take away from this is the Notes app or random little notebooks will always be your friend. I'm not telling you to go buy little notebooks, because you don't have to buy little notebooks. Even just sheets of paper, as long as you know they're not going to get lost or something. Just having that. And then think poetically if you want to dig deeper with your lyrics, like start reading poetry, which I think helps a lot. And learn about like grammar, language, and poetic language, like metaphors, and learn how to write good metaphors that you can incorporate into the entire song. And then similes, they're like your best friends. And yeah. So go check out my music. I have a single called Drive You Home, if you would like to listen to that. That's the song I was talking about earlier, which is the one I wrote over a year and a half. And yeah, I hope you really like the video. Let me know if you want a video on music theory at all, or any other questions you have, or things that I didn't like go over. And yeah, thank you for watching.